Hey everybody, today I'm gonna be making the second video about this example that we did last week, and we're gonna do just a couple of things just to make sure we cover everything. We're gonna add 2 more constraints and get the dual value for the total of 5 constraints we're gonna have, and also the slacks for those constraints. All right, so this is what we had last week, and I'm just gonna add stuff to it. All right, so let's start with the first constraint. And I'm gonna do it differently this time, so you have options later when you're working by yourself. You can choose whatever you want. So I'm gonna generate expressions first, and then I'm gonna add it as a constraints. So I'm just gonna call this num expression. And okay, so you see here's 2x minus y. So I'm gonna go num expression dot add term. So add term, it asks you for a double and a variable. So basically, I mean, this is 2x, so I'm gonna have 2x, and it's minus y, so minus y would be minus 1, and a y here. Okay. So this add term basically just at this point num expression didn't have anything. It add 2x, and then I keep adding minus y. All right, so that's with the left hand side, and this is going to be equal to 0. So we're just going to go and write add. This is equal, so equal, and I'm going to put the num expression that we just defined, and this is going to be equal to 0. All right, cool. And the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. And the variable's already created, but I'm going to reset it here to nothing. So I'm going to have the y at term. This is going to be y. It's just s1 y. That's all right. It's multiplied by 1. And okay, so I really suggest to, like, on the right hand side, just leave all the constants there. So I'm gonna pass the x to the other side, so it's gonna be minus x. Minus x. Okay, and I'm gonna write simplex that we're gonna add the constraint. Simplex add less than equal. This is less than equal. Okay, so I have my num expression, and this is gonna be less than equal than 8. All right. Okay, we're gonna run this and see how it goes. Okay, there it is. So the objective change, of course. All right, so it's working. Let's go ahead and get the dual values. So to get the dual values, we have this option here, simplex.get duals. But I need to indicate the dual, I mean, for which constraints I want to have the dual value. And so far we've been adding constraints, but we don't really know how to call those constraints, because they get added and that's it. So we don't save it. We don't have it assigned to any variable. So what I'm gonna do before printing the dual values here, I'm gonna create a list. I'm gonna create a list of constraints. So a list of constraints, and the constraints here, the type of variable that we're using is ILO range. Constraints equal new right list ILO range. Okay, so we just added a new list, and we need to import the corresponding libraries. There. So now, this is a constraint, and every time we create a constraint, we're going to put it on the list. So constraints that add. Okay. So the first term on that list is going to be the first constraint. Okay, and now I can call it. So I'm going to do this for every constraint. And I need this one here. What are the constraints we have? Here. And here. Okay, so we have 5 constraints. I'm just going to print this with a for loop. From the beginning of the list, there. Okay, so we want to print system.out print. Okay, so first the dual values, dual of constraint. Okay, so the I starting 0, so 0 means it's the first constraint, so we're gonna write it like this: I plus 1. This is only to print the number 1, plus we're gonna add a space so it gets to be nice. Okay, so this is the real part. CPLEX dot get dual, and the argument would be constraint dot get I. All right. That variable, I never know how to write it. There. All right, so that works. So that would be the dual for that constraint, and let's get the slack also at the same time. Is basically the same thing. Just have to change this. Get slack. Get slack. All right. And this is gonna be a slack for constraint, for that constraint. I'm gonna put it there. Let's see if this works. There you have it. For each constraint, then we have the dual value and the slacks. So of course, whenever you have a dual value different than 0, you won't have a slack. You can see that there. This is the opposite case. All right. So you can clearly see here what are the constraints that are binding. And something that I forgot to mention to you guys last week is at the end you should always write this. All right. So you can free the memory. So when it's a small problem, you just do it once. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna get destroyed anyways. But if you're running like several models and within loops and stuff, if you don't add that, then it may use a lot of memory. All right. So I believe I cover everything, and just to finish this up, I'm gonna create a special class here to have it separate. And so this is gonna be example 1. I'm gonna move everything there. All right. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm gonna publish this code in GitHub, so you can just download that class there. So example 1 that okay, real quick here, solve me told me. All right. All right, so it's running. And okay, last thing now. You see all this stuff? This is by default, it's going to show all of the stuff. And we don't really want it there. So I'm going to write simplex. You can configure this stuff, like how much information you want it to print. So this is set parameters, and which one I want to set. This is an integer parameter for the simplex method. Simplex that display. So 0. I don't want you to show me anything. Run this again. There you go. It's printing only what we wanted to print. Cool. All right. So, okay, so this is the code. You can find that I created at GitHub. You can just go to GitHub here. Okay, github.com/sumbeka/simplex examples. Okay, you go to this website and you can, here you have it, simplex in Java. You can see the first example. You can just download the PDF and also download the Java that I just did. All right. So that's all for this week. And next week we're gonna do another example. Okay. See ya.